Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Right People, Right Places podcast. I'm your host, Raul Mendoza, and I have the absolute pleasure of having Audra Stevenson on the show today. We're going to get into some things today. Just to give you a little bit of background on her, she's a senior talent acquisition leader, an HR partner, and also people strategist with over a decade of experience driving organizational growth, specifically in the construction industry. That's an area that is near and dear to our hearts, both me and Audra. So she's recruited and onboarded hundreds of employees, led various initiatives to diversify talent, and she's built frameworks that not only reduce turnover, but also improve the quality of hire across the organization. And we've got a very exciting topic today, and we're going to be talking about bridging generations and making that knowledge transfer actually happen in a way that you're aware of people and valuing people, but actually coming up with plans and strategies to do that. I think it's such a relevant subject. There is just such a uh, kind of a transition, a massive transition, generational transition happening within the construction space with very talented, tenured leaders and technicians that are kind of nearing retirement age. So, how do we leverage the best of what they've brought to their organizations and raise up the next generation of construction talent? So, this is definitely uh, an episode that you're not going to want to miss. But before we do that, we're going to dive into Audra's story and how she landed where she's at today and what she's doing um, uh, in her current role. So, but before I do that, Audra, it's so good to have you on. Thanks for coming
Thank you.
on.
No, thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Fantastic. Well, let's dive into it for our listeners here. You and I had a nice conversation about a month ago where we were talking about just different topics. Obviously, both of us being in the construction space, we're seeing this kind of it's things are kind of peaking in this regard when we look at the talent and where things are at, in terms of generations and the shortage that exists and how do we bridge that gap. But before that, let's bridge the story of how you got to where you're at and doing what you're doing, and would love our listeners to hear that.
No, no, thank you. So I originally, when I was going to school, getting my undergrad, I my degree's in sports psychology, and I really thought that I wanted to be a sports psychologist on the PGA Tour, and that was going to be the best career ever. But I quickly learned that's a very limited field that you can get into. Um, so as I was working and just getting more, life experiences. I kind of started seeing how teams and people work together and kind of like a sports team. So I did
Totally.
actually go back to school and I got my master's in organizational psychology, which led me into a career in HR and talent acquisition. Um, it's been I never thought I would be working in the construction industry growing up. It's not something that was really ever talked about. I didn't know a whole lot about it, but now I'm going on almost 10 years in this industry, and I love it so
Amazing.
much. um, and I love the people that I get to talk to and meet literally every single day. Their stories and their passion for building things and building our communities and the places that we live and work and play. And I'm happy to be a part of that and helping teams grow. So that's kind of where my passion is right now.
So good, so good. As you were saying that about just building relationships, and that's one of the things that I love so much about construction industry. Is just it's so relational. As things have continued to evolve with technology in this space, and things are moving so quickly. It's still very much a handshake type
Hmm.
of environment where people want to make the eye contact, shake your hand.
Yeah.
You're and by nature of the industry, you're building things, right? So it's like
Mhm.
it's something you're getting dirty, you're getting into it. So it's such a refreshing space to be in. There's so many great and talented people that have done amazing work and continue to do work here in this space. So appreciate that, and uh,
Absolutely.
wonderful, that you're able to get that training and development in the space. And it's funny how that works out, though. It's like you get
Mhm.
those you get that education, and then it's like a different kind of education when you're
Yeah.
on the job, right?
Exactly, exactly.
Excellent. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing with McGordon. Like how did uh,
McCowan Gordon, yeah.
McCow and Gordon?
Um
Yes.
Y so I am a talent partner with McCown
Yeah.
Gordon,
Hmm.
which, based in Kansas City, but we do have a office here in Dallas, which is where I work out of. Really helping to build our teams across the entire organization. We are a 100% employee-owned company, so with that,
Hmm.
I think comes a different culture, different expectations. What I have really loved to see the last couple of years with McCown Gordon is the level of accountability and
Mm.
responsibility that everybody has, and that relationships is one of our core values, and that
Mm.
you see that across the entire organization with each other, with our clients, with our trade partners, um, because construction, it is not a transactional business. It can be, and then you're a one and done,
Right.
firm, but
Yep.
repeat business is built on relationships,
Hmm.
um, and so helping to build teams that can build those relationships across clients and communities is so important.
Totally.
And it's been fun to be a part of the growth of McCown Gordon the last couple of years. Our Dallas office has been open for about 4 years. And in the 2 years that I've been there, we've doubled in size, so that's been great to
Wow.
see. It's a lot of work. There's a lot of conversations and activity happening, but it's really fun to be a part of that and just to see the impact that we're making on the communities that we're serving in, um, the things that we're building in these communities and the way that it does impact, the places where we live and work, and I think that's important.
Absolutely. Now, I love that about what McCown Gordon is doing. If you were to say in just a few sentences what McCown Gordon does the best in the world, what would you say that is?
I think building relationships and giving people a great experience.
Mm.
Um, and that's again with each other across the organization. The way that I can collaborate and connect with every leader in this company is fantastic. And to see everybody have such a people first mentality makes my job fun. And it's fun to talk to people about coming to work here and what that could look like for them and the positive impact it could have for them in their careers. Um, it's just it's fun to be a part of that, and the
Yeah.
collaboration across all of the departments, the entire organization, just it creates a fun place to be, really.
Love it, love it. Yep, just plug in the organization. I know that's always helpful. I love for our audience to just kind of get a flavor of the culture of what
Mhm.
McGowan does, and I think that's critical, and you're part of building that. So that's wonderful. Well, let's talk about from your experience and what's led you to this position that you're doing with McGowan Gordon. What makes the people challenges in construction unique compared to other industries? And from what you've done in the
Yeah.
last decade.
I think one thing in the construction industry that I know there's challenges across different industries, but I think within construction specifically, you have a group of people that have been doing this for 30, 40 plus years that are getting ready to
Mhm.
retire out.
Right.
The rate at which people are retiring out of construction and the rate at which people come in are very different. So, I think for
Yeah.
about every 5 people retiring, only 1 person is entering the industry at this point.
Mm.
Um, and so how do we reach people at younger ages to get them interested and excited about careers in construction? And how do we transfer the knowledge that these professionals with 40 plus years of experience have had? How do we
Right.
transfer that to the next generation of professionals? Um, because most people are not inherently good teachers, and so they need coaching and they need guidance on how to do that. And so if you don't have things in place to help facilitate those conversations with those professionals, I think companies can struggle to transfer that knowledge and continue to build up their talent pipelines. So those are some
Mhm.
things that we've been talking about, and how do we do that? Um, in a past life, having worked, 8 years in healthcare, I did work a lot, with people who had retired, and I knew about 6 months into retirement, most people are bored. They want something to do.
Yep.
And so, they don't wanna go back to work full time, but they wanna do something. And so
Right.
how could we maybe, um look at retired construction professionals as consultants, and maybe they come and do a lunch and learn, or maybe they
Mhm.
show a class how to build out a schedule or read drawings or,
Love
do a
that.
takeoff. So there are things, finding things that people are really good at and giving them an opportunity to share that knowledge, I think, helps with all of those people that do feel a sense of boredom after retirement, and they're still giving
Totally.
back to the industry that they grew up in and they loved working in for so long. Um, and I do think it's important to capture that knowledge because going to
Yes.
school and getting book knowledge is one thing, but that's 40 years of on-site, hands-on experience that we need to be able to transfer to other professionals.
Love it. I love what you're saying there. I think one of the things that I'm realizing more than ever as well, even as I've got kids and I know you do too. And, there is something about, um, an honoring of the previous generation. And I think,
Mhm.
you don't really think about honor as something tangible, or like, okay, what does it mean to honor? It seems pretty straightforward. Seems like common sense that you would honor people. But I think that's a big component of what you're touching into is, realizing that these folks, they've done some amazing things throughout their careers and they're at the end of their career. How can we honor like not only what they've done, but also
Mhm.
draw from that? And also they're probably not even thinking a lot of times, like you said, 6 months before retirement, they're not even thinking about, they get and then they retire and then 6 months in, they're like, what am I doing? I want to do
Yeah.
something, and I think,
Mhm.
I don't think they're really thinking about that in those terms. They're just thinking, well,
Right.
I've put in my dues and I've done my
Mhm.
work and I've earned this retirement. But there's so much value and there's so much fulfillment, I think, in being able to transfer that
Mhm.
that amazing experience and know-how to another generation where they can actually leverage it and take it maybe even further than they did. And I think there's something intrinsically more meaningful. But
Mhm.
again, I think, age is one of those funny things. It's like we get older and, it's like, I find myself with kids. It's like you don't even realize I still feel like I'm in high school, and
Right.
hanging out with my friends and this kind
Mhm.
of thing with kids, obviously. But in my head, just like mentally, and I think I find that when I talk to a lot of folks that are leading into retirement, they're not thinking in those terms. But
Right.
it's how I think one way that we can do that, and I think you alluded to it nicely there, is just by honoring the next generation, recognizing the good of what they brought, and doing it practically speaking with like what you said, lunch and learns. And I guess let's continue talking about that. It sounds like that's something that you've done whether it's with McConnell Gordon or other organizations. What are some other strategies that you've used to kind of bridge the gap?
I think one thing I've done with some past teams, that I think would be really helpful if the industry as a whole did more of this, and we know time is money, and so people are moving from one project to the next, and there's,
Yep.
we can't have delays and whatnot, but even taking an hour throughout a
Mhm.
project and, at different milestone points and, um, again, in a previous life, I did work as an agile coach, and so kind of helping project managers better manage their projects. And one thing that they do is called retrospectives, and so
Yep.
you identify what's going well, what didn't go well, or what's not going
Mhm.
well.
Right.
Um, and everybody has a chance to speak up and share their voice. Um, during those sessions. And then you identify, okay, here are some things that we really need to do going forward, and then pick some action items. And if you can
Mhm.
build a book of lessons learned across various projects, I
Yeah.
think that goes such a long way to helping just train and educate other people. No, you can't just rely on the passing of knowledge
Yep.
on a project without having systems in place to help gather and capture that. And so I think that's a really easy way. Yes, it
Mhm.
might take an hour to complete the whole sit down meeting. But if it saves you 20 hours later on with mistakes or errors, it can definitely help just have more successful projects down the road. So those are things that I think people and project teams could start doing. we did with some that they had not done it before, they loved it. But again, people who don't typically speak up, um, you're just writing Post-it notes and sticking on a wall so nobody knows who wrote what, and, it just you get
Right.
more free flowing ideas. I think, being able to facilitate those conversations, pull out some of that information, and again, put it together in kind of a lessons learned format, just helps the next project run more smoothly, I think.
Totally. I love that idea. And it's like some low-hanging fruit there in terms of, okay, you're doing the work anyway, let's just bring someone along for the ride and let's transfer that knowledge and, maybe create um some easy playbooks to remember some of
Mhm.
those things that are being talked about, or to at least guide the conversation, and it's not too much work for the coach, for the person that's kind of teaching, and it's not too much work for the person that's learning as well. So I think that's
Right.
a fantastic example of that. And obviously, one of the things that I realize as well is, like, as you're become I've been in talent acquisition now for, you've been in for a decade. I've been doing this for a few myself, and it's just like,
Mhm.
you don't think about what you just kind of know what and you're not really thinking about how that information passes over to
Mhm.
someone.
Yep.
You just kind of assume. It's almost easy to just kind of assume that people know this, but they don't. You've acquired it over years of experience, trial and error, failure, and success.
Mhm.
So I think, being able to, I guess that kind of leads us into the next question: is how do you, whether it's with McCown Gordon or other organizations you work with, how have you encouraged or positioned folks that are within your ranks that are excellent practitioners, technical people, just doing amazing work and have been doing it and maybe are near that kind of retirement age? How have you
Mhm.
helped them to think differently about their contribution and what they could potentially do for someone that's up and coming?
Yeah, I think this is not just within construction, I think
Yeah.
within life, one of the
Yeah.
biggest problem makers is just a lack of clear communication, a lack of,
Yes.
defining expectations. Um, and so one thing that I've talked through and coached teams on in the past too is, I had a project executive who his expectation of done was one thing, and the young project engineer was another thing. And they did not understand each other at all. And it was causing all kinds of issues. And
Talking
the
past
project
each
engineer
other,
was not a
right?
bad yeah, the project engineer was not a bad teammate, and the project executive was not being a bad manager, but they weren't communicating effectively. And so once he could
Totally.
articulate, "Okay, this is my definition of what done looks like, and so let's walk through the steps together." And then just being able to coach your managers, coach your leaders, so that they have better conversations with their teammates and they're communicating more effectively. Because I think 99% of all problems could be resolved quickly if we weren't afraid to have tough conversations, if we could communicate a little bit more articulately with our teams and with
Totally.
each other, and talk through things instead of being afraid that we might hurt someone's feelings. Because once they talk through that, and this happens all the time, they were able to move forward and everybody was happy and it was just a better environment. And so, um, I think we see more and more that communication skills, considered a soft skill, but it's crucial to success, especially in
Mm,
construction. So some of those soft skills really are hard skills that are needed. And so I think it's up to companies to provide tools to coach and train our future leaders better
mhm.
too. Um, I am gonna brag on our talent development team at McCown Gordon a little bit.
You
I
do
think they're
that. Let's
fantastic.
This
Um,
is your time. This is
so
your time to do so.
yeah, they the way that they have, built up some of our programs and created these opportunities for young professionals to learn and have mentorship opportunities with other associates that have more experience. Um, they've done a fantastic job, and when I talk to young project engineers, their level of excitement and engagement is so fun to see, but it's because they're able to have these learning moments and these conversations with other leaders,
Mm,
that really help them to see the bigger picture. They get more engaged in the project. Um, and they are coached through challenges and not just told, "That was wrong, don't do it again." Let's coach them through that so that they learn better for next time, and just providing those opportunities again. I think our talent development team is one of the best I've ever seen. Um, and seeing the level of engagement amongst all of our associates, I think is a testament to how well they do provide training, and support to all of our team members.
That's fantastic. I mean, I think like what you're saying right there, communication. I mean, our words, they make or break us. They make or break our teams. They make or break people. Our
Mhm,
words are powerful, and when that communication skills honed, both at the leadership level or at the entry level, it's only going to benefit the organization, right? Like, I think this kind of segues nicely into even just another topic that I just wanted to touch into was culture. Obviously we're
mhm,
talking about generational transfer and generational changes and being able to take the best of people that have done it well for many, many years and passing that down to an up and coming generation. But in order to do that, the actual bridge for that is communication, isn't it? That's what you're saying. It is communication. And the great thing is that it's not only accomplishing that transfer, but it's actually doing something even bigger that I think you're tapping into here, and it's building culture. Because culture,
mhm.
I feel like culture is we talk about it so much in talent acquisition, in recruiting, in companies. It's all about the culture of the company. It's all, it's such a, it's kind of like leadership. It's like we
Yeah,
know that leadership is important, but it's like we're constantly hearing ideas and about leadership and the importance of leadership, and communication is right there with it. It's like it can almost wash over us and we forget that actually these are the things that make a difference in an organization. And it can almost feel, leadership is, it's not like a piece of software that or like a computer that you can touch, or a phone. It's not tangible. But you feel when good leadership is happening. In the same way,
yeah.
communication, you see the effects of good communication flowing through a team, a culture, and an
Mhm,
organization. So I love that you said that. You've led initiatives with um, inclusion and really kind of diversifying talent within
mhm,
organizations. And how does emotional intelligence play into leading especially in the construction space? How have you coached leaders, and how have you coached people coming in? Because I would say on a whole, people in construction just call a spade a spade, and that can be taken
mhm.
the wrong
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
But the truth is, the good of that is we're able to get into things
mhm.
right away. We're able to get into the meat. So anyway,
Yeah, and I think, with the construction industry, because I was like, growing up and when I was in high school, like, nobody ever talked about construction careers or what that could look
right.
like, or, um, I didn't know. It's been really nice. I actually just got back from a week of college recruiting, so different college campuses, and seeing more women taking construction sciences and engineering programs is fantastic. Other groups that are historically underrepresented in the construction space, getting involved in engineering and construction science is great, because at the end, we're building in communities where people live, and
Totally.
being able to see ourselves in those opportunities and see ourselves in those communities is really important too. And so having
Hmm.
differing perspectives, having being able to get young women and young kids excited about careers in construction, I think is so important because of that. One, because of the skills shortage, labor shortage within the industry, but just having those different perspectives, different ways to approach a problem, approach a project. And at the end of the day, I think having different perspectives, different conversations, different points of views contributing to conversations is what makes us a better company, helps us be more successful with our projects, and helps us relate to our clients in a better way. I mean, again, we
Hmm.
do a lot within our communities. So being able to connect and collaborate with them is really important.
I love it. I love it. On that note, how would you say, again, you got some very experienced people within your ranks, I'm sure, at McCown Gordon, and also other organizations as well that you work
Yeah.
with. But I think there could be with people that know their stuff really well. They have the mindset to be very directive and really straight
Mhm.
and to the point. How have you as a talent leader working with those folks, or um, how have you coached them, um, so that they're not losing their authority, but are, being able
Yeah.
to get their message
I
across
think
in a way that resonates?
mhm. I was listening to a podcast the other day, I think by Simon Sinek, and he was saying like curiosity is the number one thing to build
Mm,
bridges and bridge gaps between people. And if we operate with with the assumption that everyone is doing the best they can with what they have and what they know,
yep.
um, if we approach everything from a sense of curiosity, okay, why did you do it that way? Explain to me this, talk to me about this, instead of yelling, barking orders, which historically is the perception of the construction industry. Um, we open up those conversations and we create
Yeah.
places where people collaborate and engage more. And I think that's talking to college kids the last few years and talking to young professionals, they don't want to be yelled at. They don't want to go to work and have, leaders say one thing and do another. They want authenticity. They want to be able to collaborate. They want to feel heard. And so you have to be able to adapt to the changing workforce as well. And so I think if we can approach things just with a sense of curiosity, that breaks down barriers and helps build bridges faster than anything else that I think we can do. Um,
That's
and I
good.
think that's important. I think the companies that do understand that and do see that, you see them successful. You see them engaging talent. And I just one thing I love about McCown
Mm,
Gordon, I think we are a very transparent organization, and regardless of what is going on, if you can't be open and
mhm,
transparent, you're going to lose trust really quickly with
mhm.
people. And so I think being able to be transparent, be open and honest. It goes such a long way for people feeling valued and respected at work, which we spend a majority of our lives at work. And so we want
Totally.
to feel that. Um, and one thing I think, some
So good.
managers we do have to coach and talk through, like, oh, it looks like, they're a job hopper. They moved every couple years. And I think it's important to understand, like, that's why our job is so important. Like, let's dig into why. What's going on here? Because there are a lot of bad players out there too, and it might have not been a good culture fit for them. And more people are looking for the right culture fit for them. And not every company is perfect and it's not perfect for every person. And so being able to dig into true motivations, what people are looking for, and honestly tell them, yes, we can offer that or no, we can't is really important. Because the second they feel that you are dishonest or misled them in some way, they're checked out and they're gone.
Mhm.
So I really think it's important that we understand that as talent partners, that's one of our jobs is to dig into the whys and the motivations um, of people and what they're looking for. And then one thing I've always done because I'm asking somebody to leave a job that they're relatively happy right now. I want to ensure that if they make that move, that they're going to be happier where they're going versus where
Totally.
they're coming from. And so we don't build stick frame multifamily homes. And so if that's somebody's favorite thing to do, that's their project type, that's what they love. Like, we don't do that. So I'm not going to say, well, we might do that and then like get them to come over here. It's just it's important to be really authentic and transparent and open with people and what I think the second that they feel that you've misled them, you've lost them and they're not going to be engaged and they're going to start looking elsewhere.
Totally. Oh man, that was so good. Everything you said there. Um, I'm hearing a lot of C's. I'm hearing culture, communication, curiosity. I think what you just shared is just absolute gold because whether you're somebody that's just jumping into this space and you're learning,
Hmm.
curiosity is essential because curiosity allows us to ask questions. It drives us to ask questions. It doesn't allow us. It drives us to ask questions because we want to understand. And I think also for folks that have been doing it a long time, um, it's important that if they're not curious, they should be. Like, it doesn't matter how long you've been doing something. If you're lacking in curiosity, you're not always learning, which means you're not
Right.
growing. And the truth is
Mhm.
that no matter where you're at, 20 years in or 1 year in, if you're not curious, asking questions, um, you're in trouble. You're in trouble because you're not enjoying. Learning is an amazing opportunity to grow, and you can always do that 20 years in or 1 year in. So I think you're just touching on such a vital topic because no matter how long you've been doing something, if you're that's a good litmus test. It's like, am I curious? When's the last time
Yeah.
I asked anybody any questions about anything or looked into something? And I think this is
Mhm.
where there's an opportunity for organizations and tenured folks that have done amazing things. They have an opportunity to meet that curiosity in others. And while they're doing that, they're learning something about
Yeah.
the future.
Mhm.
It's pushing them. So I think you're touching on just some really incredible foundations, I think, that are so necessary for building culture. Without communication and curiosity, you don't really have a healthy culture. You have
Yeah.
I mean, so it's so good.
Well, and relationships in general. I mean, not just at
Yeah.
work, and it's in our lives. Our healthiest relationships are those people that we communicate with and we can be open and transparent with.
Yeah.
I think if you take that through every aspect of your life, it just creates better experiences across the board.
Totally. Totally. It's so good. Well, a few more things that I wanted to kind of touch into here before
Sure.
we you've already provided some great advice here, I think, for leaders and for those coming in um, to the construction space. Um, so, another thing, I just kind of wanted to tap into even just future outlook. As Gen Z and millennials grow into leadership roles, what will they expect from companies they work for in construction? What are you seeing as you're talking?
Yeah.
Even you said you were on the college campuses, on a
Mhm.
few college campuses this past week. What are some trends, some themes that you're kind of seeing with that up and coming generation?
Yeah, I think work-life balance, I think, is really important to so many people now, and
Hmm.
I think we saw when COVID hit and the world changed and things shifted a little bit that maybe there's a little bit more flexibility, than what we initially thought, and I think people want to be able to have their quality time, family, friends, alone time, whatever that is that they need, balanced with their work life, and they don't wanna work 80 hours a week, and I know the construction industry, especially on-site project teams, there are long days and long hours, but I think companies that can staff properly and adjust to kind of the changing demands of the next generation, family is really important to them, and we've got, people taking care of older family members and people wanting to be there for all of their kids' activities. And if we can find that right balance, that's crucial. They want people. I just in a lot of the conversations I have, they want transparency and honesty. Um, and again, sometimes that might be having a difficult conversation, but that's okay. People want real, authentic, transparent companies that they're working for. They don't want to feel like you're misleading them. And it's not all sunshine and roses at any one place that you might go to. But I
So true.
think. I think the companies that really do embrace honesty, transparency, and authenticity really do create better cultures that people feel really engaged to be a part of. There are some days, I put in longer hours than others, but I'm okay with that because it's not. It, I know what we're building here, and it's important, and I enjoy the work that I'm doing, so that's not draining to me.
Mm.
Um, and I think when people don't feel a connection or they don't feel like somebody's being honest with them, that is draining because they're constantly questioning, "Why am I doing this? What's going on?" And that's draining day in and day out. Um,
Totally.
and so, yes, the construction industry is not a typical 8 to 5, job, but I think if you can balance things the right way and provide that, um, transparency across teams and giving them opportunities to grow and learn personally and professionally, those are things that are gonna make a huge impact for people. It's not the money. I have seen people take positions where they're making less money, but it's a better culture fit and it's a better environment, and they're growing more than they did at their other role. And those things are really important to people. Um,
Hmm.
and you can't just most of the time, you can't just throw more money at somebody and expect them to be happy with that. That will last for a very short period of time. Um, but the reasons why they were feeling disengaged or unhappy don't change. And so you got to
Totally.
be able to understand what it is that the people are, what really motivates them and what gets them excited. I don't have the Sunday evening dread of from Monday morning. I love the people that I work with. I love the work that we do. Um, Being engaged in the communities that we're serving in and working in and building schools and healthcare facilities and hospitals and community centers and uh, it, when I go walk a project with a team and they're my kid's going to go to this school one day or our family's going to use this facility one day, like they have so much pride in that and they see that for generations then in their family and I just I love seeing that in our teams, and that's why I love going out and walking job sites, with the project teams and just seeing the pride and the passion that they have for what they're doing.
So good. I love what you said there. I mean, so much. I love the work that like um I love the work that your team is doing and your organization is doing, McCown Gordon. I just think being able to build, I mean, these are things that are just staples to society, hospitals,
Mhm,
education centers, schools, like these are centers where people are growing, are building culture, are building themselves, so it's neat to be able to be a part of building facilities that are facilitating community within.
mhm,
So
yeah,
anyway, you're getting me excited
that's
as you're
great.
sharing. I'm just like and I think, with that, it's so true about the up and coming generation. It's so true about Gen Z. They're looking for meaning.
Mhm,
They want to connect meaning to their work. So, how do we do that? And I think I love what you said about appropriately staffing, jobs and this type of thing. Obviously, there's always, we're business can be very much of the mind, let's try to do, le- you know, more with less, but I
right,
think
right,
it's hard. You can't really do that in this day and age because there's things are moving faster than they ever have.
mhm,
So it's like, let's get the right team members, let's get the right groups together to accomplish work and get it across the finish line. So I think really being able to honestly assess that and recognize, okay, obviously companies have to be profitable, but at the same time, is it going to be? Are you going to lean up teams at the expense of potentially losing people? So, and the truth is, you're absolutely right. You hit on it so well. Just the construction space is a space where there's just gonna be things that come up.
mhm,
It's an industry that is solving problems, building
right,
problems.
mhm,
But I think being able to tie meaning, I think family, that's a big one. I'm starting to see more. I'm starting to see more Gen Z folks have more kids and have families and really kind of point to that. So I think if you're able to make that connection between work and meaning, all of a sudden it's kind of like uh, it's a reciprocal relationship. Like if you can make it about what's important to them, they're going to make
mhm,
it about what's important to them, but that's going to be the motivation for actually spending extra time on the job, not because they
yeah,
need to, but because they want to,
right,
because they know that you care about what you care about, you know? They know that you care about their family, their situation, their outlook. So so much good there. I think it's a difficult thing to balance. I think
right,
you don't want to go on the side of just, okay, we're going to give you everything you want, but you can't do that because then you don't
mhm,
have a business.
right, right,
But then you can't be so um about getting the work done and not valuing and creating space for meaning for people and
right,
connecting those. We have to connect those things. The best organizations connect that meaning. And I mean, I
yeah,
could tell what you are doing. It's just with McCorden, it's just incredible. So I love it.
yeah.
um, Along with that, how do you see leadership in construction evolving over the next decade? Obviously, these things have got to be intrinsically at the forefront: family, meaning, and work-life balance. Is there anything else that you see?
Yeah, I mean, we've and I think we're seeing that shift here
Hmm.
lately is being able to coach your teams and motivate them, encourage them, um, being able to meet people where they're at so that you can train them and mentor them um and both ways too. I think young professionals have a lot they can teach very seasoned professionals, and our seasoned professionals have a lot that younger professionals can learn from them. Um, so I do think it's a company's responsibility to help coach and train the seasoned professionals so that they can be better coaches and mentors themselves, because that is going to be a crucial piece to helping teams grow and helping them be successful. Um, I don't think emotional intelligence is a soft skill that is a nice to have anymore. I do think it's a critical skill that is necessary for successful leadership on projects. You might have 1,000 different trade partners on a large project, and you've got the owner, and you've got the architect, and then you've got your team, and you've got to be able to manage those relationships and those conversations, get everybody moving in the same direction, and you have to be able to do it without yelling and screaming and cussing somebody out. And
Right.
you've got to be able to lead and guide a lot of people. Some of our larger projects, you can have 30 different trades on a project at the same time, and so, um, you're managing a lot of moving parts as a project team. So though the next wave of project leaders are going to need to be able to be good coaches, for their teams, and I think it's up to us to give them those tools and resources and opportunities to grow as a coach, as they step into leadership opportunities as they grow their careers. I think that's crucial, to the future success. I will say this, like, and I know not every company has the resources and the people team and the things that they need to be able to do that, but there are resources available out there, um, that you can look at. So if you are a young professional and you want to hone your leadership skills, I mean, there are all kinds of things that you can do. One person that I have listened to and learned from for a long time now is Jason Schroeder. He's got Elevate Construction. I think that's a fantastic resource for construction professionals. I am not a builder, but I listen to his podcast on superintendents and project managers and estimators, and, he has a lot of
Very
leadership
cool.
podcasts, and, there's a lot of things that you can do yourself if your company just doesn't have the resources available, um, to give you those opportunities that will help you be a better leader down the road. So, I encourage people to do some research and look into some different tools that might be available if your company isn't able to provide those too.
I love it. That's fantastic stuff there. Great resources, great tools. I didn't even know about that. I'll have to check that out for myself. I think
It's great.
I think that's such a neat way. I think we live in a day and age where this stuff is pretty accessible through YouTube, and there's things that teams
Mhm.
can do. And at very minimum, there's things that people can do in terms of self-guided development with the accountability of their leadership teams to
Yeah.
work through issues of communication and curiosity,
Mhm. Yeah.
like you said earlier. So I think that's great. All right. Well, let's wrap this up. I
Yeah,
think
you've
this
been
has been
great.
such a great conversation. I think there's so much here for us to come away with. I've come away with a lot, even in what you've shared, your suggestions, as well as just coming back to the fundamentals here of what makes companies great and what makes talent acquisition great for companies. They're
Mm,
championing culture and they're telling
mhm.
that story. And, whether it's on college campuses like this past week for you, or whether it's with a high level leader at McAllen Gordon, like you're telling those stories and communicating and sparking curiosity is the thing to do. So, but if
Yeah.
you had to leave leaders with one takeaway on bridging generations and leading with emotional intelligence, what would it be? And it could be a reminder of something you've already said, but if there's
Yeah.
something on your mind that is coming to you that's different than what you said, feel free to
Mhm.
share it.
Um, this might sound really silly. Ted Lasso was one of my all-time favorite shows, but something he said in episode, "Be curious, not judgmental." And I think if leaders can lead with curiosity, they're gonna help build trust and rapport with their teams that will take
Mhm.
them so far. Um So I guess that's my one piece of advice. Be curious, not judgmental, and listen to understand, not don't listen to reply to people.
Oof,
Um, and
so good.
I think that will go such a long way with building trust with your teams, with other departments, and anyone that you're trying to build a relationship with.
I think that is a mic drop moment right there. Audra, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I think again, I've learned a lot. I've come away enriched, and to our listeners out in the audience here, I'm sure that if you've gotten this far into the podcast, I'm sure you've recognized there's a lot of good stuff. You're going to have to rewind this episode a couple times to go back and pull some of that goodness out. But we appreciate you for being on the podcast, Audra, and we appreciate you, our listeners, for listening this far. And Audra, if people wanted to find you, whether it's candidates looking for opportunities at McCown Gordon, or just to reach out to you to learn about your tactics, strategies, and things that you've implemented throughout your career to build and bridge the gap when it comes to, the generations and talent. And where can people find you?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely connect with me on LinkedIn. I love connecting with people. Um, I think that's probably the best way to get a hold of me. I'm on there every day, so I'm usually pretty quick to respond and get back with people. But no, I love connecting with people. I love this industry. I love talking about the construction industry and all the positive things that we're doing to move it forward. I know we've got some challenges with talent shortages and everything, but I love talking about ways that we can kind of bridge some of those gaps. And this was a great conversation. So thank you so much for having me today.
Absolutely, Audra. Well, thank you. And I see a part two in our future here. So,
Yeah, that'd be great.
but all right. Well, thank you everyone for joining in this far. Um, Go ahead and click on the follow button. If you're on YouTube, we do have our podcast, the Right People, Right Places podcast there for new episodes. We try to dish out a few a month at this point. We might increase the cadence of that here, but follow us there. We're also wherever you get podcasts, and whether it's Apple, Spotify, we're also there. So thanks again for listening in, and we'll catch you on the next episode.